Coming up on today's edition of Locked On Eagles, it's Locked On QB1. Today we're going to talk a lot about Jalen Hurts, who's saving his best passing for last and to help the Eagles clinch the playoffs in 2021. Has it been enough to convince the Eagles that he's the guy in 2022?
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. I'm Louis DiBiase. This is Locked On QB1 on your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Guys, you can find Locked On Eagles wherever you get the show. We're available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube Monday through Friday. We're also on Twitter, always talking birds, at Locked On Birds, at DiBiase LOE. My co-host, Gino Camilleri, he's on Twitter at GC24_football. As we always do on Friday, we focus in on the quarterback position, talking about Jalen Hurts today. It's Locked On QB1, and Locked On QB1 is always about Hurts now. It wasn't really for a lot of 2021 because of a slow start. The first 8 games had a lot of question marks, and there's still a ton of question marks, but no longer are we really focused on, the one episode was all about Ole Miss versus Liberty, because that featured Malik Willis and Matt Corral, potentially the top 2 prospects in the 2022 NFL draft class at the most important position in all of sports. But Jalen Hurts has not completely silenced the doubters and not completely guaranteed his spot as the long-term franchise quarterback. But what he has done in the second half of the season to help the Eagles turn around a 2-5 start, winning 7 of 9, getting to the playoffs for the 4th time in 5 years, really has changed the narrative and has changed the feeling about his standing with the organization long term. And I thought the game in Washington, Hurts was the most impressive I've seen. I was never more bought into Jalen Hurts, and you guys know me, it's taken a lot, and I'm still not as sold as many people. For a lot of the same reasons that I was still not sold, heading into the year. But I've never been more bought in than that game against Washington. As I said last week, that was a franchise quarterback elevating your team in the most important spot when other things weren't working kind of game. It was why I loved the 2019 run so much, because of what it represented, what it felt like the Eagles had at quarterback in Carson Wentz, that when literally everything else could go wrong outside of the offensive line, the quarterback can still get you on a run late in the year. Yeah, not win 13 games, but in the worst case scenario, if you have the right guy, he can win you a division and still get you into the postseason. And that was the kind of game I felt like Jalen Hurts was having in Washington, where it just felt like he wasn't going to let the Eagles lose that game. And I went back and rewatched the game, and it's true. Like, the Eagles really, they, surpassed 100 rushing yards again, as they have pretty much every game in the second half of the season. Actually, yes, every game in the second half of the season. The Eagles, despite that fact, they really were not running the ball all that well for a while. They had a lot of long yardage situations on 2nd and 3rd down, a lot more 3rd and 6 plus, when normally on 2nd down and 3rd down, this team has been able to stay ahead of the sticks, right? They've been able to deal with, 2nd and 6, and then 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, 3rd and, 5 below. And it's so much easier to convert in those situations. But against Washington, they found themselves in a lot more, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 13. And a lot of the time this year, the Eagles have not been able to convert in those situations. Why? Because they're obvious passing situations. And in obvious passing situations this year, Jalen Hurts has not come through. In his last 8 starts, he was just 7 of 17 on 3rd and 7 or more. And just 2 of those 7 completions led to first downs. So when it comes to converting on 17 passing attempts on 3rd and 7 or more in the second half of the year, Jalen Hurts was just 2 of 17. And yet they're still 5th and 3rd down efficiency, because this is the tough evaluation process with Jalen Hurts. Despite being 2 of 17, converting 3rd and longs with his arm, at the same time, he has the most 3rd down runs in the NFL that have led to first downs. And that's why the Eagles are a top 5 unit on offense in third down efficiency. But you still, despite that fact, have not really seen him be able to have that same success with his arm until Sunday rolled around in DC. Jalen Hurts, this is why I was sold. Because not only was he elevating you with his mobility, right, being able to pull a rabbit out of a hat on 3rd and 13 and running for 20 yards, like the Eagles are very accustomed to him doing. And obviously that's a huge strength to have. And it's why I always want a mobile quarterback, because that guy always gives you a chance. But on Sunday, he was also doing it with his arm. I went back and watched that game. I did the charts on 2nd and 3rd and 6+. So in 2nd and 3rd down situations where there's 6 yards or more to go, an area that the Eagles really have not been good at this year in converting, Jalen Hurts was 10 of 13, and 6 of those 10 completions led to first down conversions. And 4 of those 6 conversions were on 2nd/3rd down and 10+. And that is a huge, huge step. And it's just one step, and it's just one game. And you want to see a franchise quarterback has to be able to do that week in and week out. But that is just another sign of the continual development in Hurts's game as a passer, the continual improvements that aren't huge leaps like some players have had in their second year, but they are steps in the right direction. And I was super impressed with Hurts's game. And even going back and rewatching the game, I was even more impressed. Like some of the tough throws he made, the one where Dallas Goedert hit the training table on the DC sideline. I mean, Jalen Hurts sticks in the pocket. He's got a defender right at his feet about to drill him. An offensive lineman, I think it was Nate Herbig's, getting backed into him. He stands completely tall and delivers a strike on the right sideline. That is a hard throw to make. And most of the time this year, he would have rolled to his left or his right and used his mobility. But he stood in there and, man, he made some big time throws on Sunday to help the Eagles clinch the playoffs. And that is so important because, again, the Eagles do it better than most this year, where they stay ahead of the sticks and they make it very easy, convertible situations on 2nd and 3rd down. But the fact of the matter is, in the NFL, you can't always have it at, 2nd and 5 and 3rd and 3. It's not always going to be that easy. And again, you need your quarterback to be able to get you out of those tough spots with his arm. Hurts doesn't have to do it with his arm as often as most because he has the mobility that can take over and do it for you. But you still need to be able to do that. I remember I've never felt more worse watching football than in 2015 because the Eagles had Sam Bradford. And in these situations I'm laying out for you, it just felt like, if it was 3rd and 7+, the Eagles weren't getting it. Sam Bradford was going to take one read, and then he was going to dump it off to DeMarco Murray, who was going to get 2 yards, and it would be 4th and 5. It just felt like the Eagles never had a chance in long yardage, obvious passing situations. And that's a very crappy feeling to have. And with Jalen Hurts, a lot of the time, it's felt the same when it comes to when he has to throw. But that has not been the case the last few weeks, and I was super impressed with that game in Washington, and he is saving his best passing for last. Has it been enough to convince the Eagles to give him the job in 2022 and moving forward? We might have got a tip on that this week, and we'll get into it coming up next right here on Locked On Eagles. And guys, today's show is sponsored by Built Bar. It's the new year, so that means New Year's resolutions. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthier this year, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes just like a candy bar and maybe even better. They're covered in 100% chocolate. They're soft and easy to chew. And best of all, it's all that delicious flavor and none of the guilt. Only 130 calories in a bar, 4 grams of sugar, just 4 net carbs, and they're loaded with protein. 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. And the awesome part too about Built Bar, there are so many flavors for every taste bud, right? I mean, if you like coconut, they've got coconut almond. I'm a big peanut butter guy. They've got peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. Built Bar is always coming out with new limited time flavors as well. Make sure you to go to built.com and use the promo code LOCKED15. That's LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next order at built.com. And guys, today's show is also sponsored by Get Upside. This is an incredible app that everyone who buys gas needs to know about, especially with how high gas prices are right now. I think I'm up in Buffalo, New York right now. I'm paying like $3.50 a gallon. It's just crazy. Well, Get Upside listeners are making up to 25 cents for every gallon of gas every time they fill up. Just download the free Get Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and use the promo code touchdown and get a bonus 25 cents per gallon on your first fill up. That's up to 50 cents in cash back. Don't pay full price at the pump anymore. They're outrageous right now. Get cash back using Get Upside. Again, just download the app for free and use the promo code touchdown to get up to 50 cents per gallon in cash back on your first tank. Some people, like myself, who drive a lot, are making as much as $200 to $300 a month in cash back, and there's no catch. The cash back gets added right to your account, and you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or an e-gift card, and Amazon for other brands. Guys, this is Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, and we thank you for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. It's Friday, and our flagship Friday show is Locked On QB1. We are diving deep into Jalen Hurts today. And like I said in segment one, I thought Sunday was his most impressive performance of the season as a passer, just as a guy that's elevating your football team in a tough spot in the most important game of the year, and it helped the Eagles clinch a playoff spot. So the question is now, was it enough to convince the Eagles that he's the guy moving forward? Is he the guy in 2022? Has he done enough to convince them that let's start using these draft picks and building around Jalen? Let's just really bolster up this roster. I don't know if anybody's heard of this Twitter account. It's growing popularity throughout the second half of the season. It's called Honest NFL. This person claims to be a former NFL executive or scout. He clearly has a ton of knowledge with the X's and O's of the game. It sounds like he's been in the buildings before of NFL franchises. And it sounds like to me, just based on the percentage of how much he talks about the Eagles versus how much he talks about other teams, that I think he used to work for the Eagles. I don't know if this is a former scout that used to be with the team. I don't know if it's a former executive. Heck, I don't know if this is Howie Roseman's burner account. For all we know, don't never rule out anything with Howie Roseman. But for all we know, this guy knows a lot about the Eagles. And he had an interesting tweet this week that said, he thinks that Jalen Hurts is all but guaranteed his spot as QB1 for 2022, that the locker room loves this kid, that Jeffrey Lurie is sold, and at least for the time being, and that they really don't want another quarterback controversy. They really don't want more change and, no structure at this spot. They want, continuity. And they want to really just be able to, keep rolling with this position, having some sort of, stability, right? I think that's the key. And I think this guy used to work for the Eagles. So I think this has real weight to it. And I agree. And again, I totally see this perspective. I think Jalen Hurts has shown enough development in the key areas of weakness. Again, he still has a long way to go. And there's a lot of repeat mistakes still that I think should, for a guy this far along now in his career, I think he should be further along in some areas. But, again, as I laid out a lot of other improvements, he's made enough developments as a passer with the explosive playability. This kid right now leads the NFL in explosive plays, which is throws of, I think it's 16 plus or 10 plus. I forget what it is. It's runs of 16 plus and throws of 10 plus, or it's the other way around. Either way, Jalen Hurts leads the NFL in explosive plays. He has elite mobility, right? He's one of 7 quarterbacks to ever throw for over 3,000 passing yards and run for over 750. You add that with the leadership, the ability to get your team out of rough spots, and make the playoffs this year. I think it's all worth giving him another year. So I think it's totally understandable that the Eagles potentially do feel this way. Again, one of 7 quarterbacks in NFL history to have over 3,000 passing yards and run for over 750. The other quarterbacks were all turning into stars outside of Robert Griffin III in 2012. He was one of them. The others, the Eagles fans are very familiar with one, Randall Cunningham. Another one, Russell Wilson, a guy the Eagles, potentially do want this offseason. Cam Newton, Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, and Jalen Hurts. Those are all the quarterbacks to complete that feat. And so that's pretty good company. And outside of one, 6 of those I should say 5 of those 6 guys that are not named Jalen Hurts have turned into studs. Some that have won Super Bowls, some that have won MVPs, some that are just all around complete weapons in the NFL. And so that's good company. And yeah, I think there's been plenty this year to believe in Jalen Hurts' game that would make you want to run it back at least for one more year. The other thing too is Jalen is mega inexpensive right now. That's a perk too, that obviously with dealing with Carson Wentz's dead cap weight, it's nice to have your starting quarterback right now only have a $1.6 million cap hit next year and 1.9 the year after. So that's like under $5 million you have to pay your quarterback cap hit wise the next 2 years. Like that's a really good spot to be in. So there's a lot of things that would make you want to, continue to see if this could work out. It's obviously the best case scenario. This is the best outcome. You want him to be the guy so you can continue with this inexpensive contract. You can continue to evaluate if you should get another one. You can use these other assets on other important positions like the defense right now that needs a lot of young talent. And it sounds like the locker room and Jeffrey Lurie are too bought in right now, probably to take another prospect in the 2022 draft. But at the same time, with that being said, with this tweet, I don't think that is them saying like, they're sold. Jalen Hurts is the franchise quarterback moving forward. They're not going to consider other avenues, right? They're going to just focus on building around him. They're going to give him that deal they gave Carson Wentz eventually. Like, I don't think they're close to being there yet either. Like, if this offseason, if there's still an opportunity to land Russell Wilson, even as much as I would hate it, Deshaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers, I think, is a pipe dream. I don't think he's going anywhere. And even if he did, he's not coming to Philadelphia. But let's just say, like, you had an opportunity to land one of those star quarterbacks. I don't think there's a really good shot of any of the 3. But if there was, like, they're not sold on Jalen Hurts enough to say, no, we're not going to explore that avenue. The door is shut on that. This team wants a star quarterback really badly. Even for Jalen Hurts' improvements this year, they want to be able to throw the football the majority of the time. And right now, they are not that kind of football team. So again, it's still an evaluation process. It's still an ongoing process, but Jalen has done enough to extend that window, right? We said the leash was really short heading into the year. He's definitely made that leash a little longer. Not super long, but definitely longer. At the same time, I still want this team to be honest in their evaluation, though. You know what I mean? Like, again, I think it sounds like this team is too bought in right now to probably draft another quarterback. But at the same time, I want this to be an honest evaluation. If you feel like, and I don't think this will be the case, but if you feel like even with this playoff berth, with the way you did it, if you still feel like you're capped with Jalen Hurts with your team's ceiling, and if there's a prospect you feel with the right situation can be great, can be better than Jalen Hurts, if you feel like there's an opportunity with a prospect that fell this year that you didn't have to give up premier assets for, or maybe you didn't have to give up a lot just to move up a couple spots because of the situation in this year's draft, it might be easier to acquire a guy with a ton of upside, right? Because they have lower floors. So it might be easier when you're picking 14 through 23 to land one of those players. If you think that guy can be astronomically better, if you think the upside is there and it's worth it, and you think that you could do better, I don't want them to be afraid to do worse. That's my thing. I want you to say we want Jalen Hurts over Malik Willis, over Desmond Ridder, over Kenny Pickett, Matt Corral, Carson Strong, whichever guy you like. I want them to say we want Jalen Hurts because we think he can be better than those guys. Not that those guys can be worse than Jalen Hurts. So again, I'm fine with you buying into Jalen Hurts over those players, but I don't want you to do what maybe you did last year when it comes to Trey Lance or Justin Fields. I felt like they were scared to do worse coming off what just happened with Carson Wentz. So if you don't think you can do better with these prospects, with the pick order that you're at, then okay. And I think that is where this team is probably at right now. And while I think some of the upside of like a Malik Willis is higher than Jalen, I understand why you'd rather run it back with Hurts and still have the options of 2023 open. I get why you would choose that route. I just want them to be honest in their evaluation and not scared. You know what I mean? That's because the way this team is going to be playing football the next few years, I got news for you. They're not going to be picking at the top of the draft. So at some point, you can't be scared of a Malik Willis or Desmond Ridder type of prospect, or a Patrick Mahomes in 2017 like the Chiefs, or the Bills with Josh Allen and the Ravens with Lamar Jackson. This team's going to be picking in the middle to late parts of the draft. So you have to be comfortable eventually, unless you can find a way to trade for a Russell Wilson or unless Jalen Hurts becomes the guy, with that low floor, high ceiling type of player. And this year, you don't potentially have to take that risk because of Hurts. But you gotta. I want their motivation to be, we think Jalen can be better. That he's a better prospect than those guys. Not that we're scared to do worse. And I don't think that's where their head is at. I'm just saying I don't want that to be where their head is at, and I hope it's not. And I don't think it is. But because I think this team is very set on upgrading at quarterback, and this team, I don't have to worry about settling at the position. So as long as their head is not there, then I'm following along with what's going on right now at the position. Guys, this is Locked On Eagles, and today's show is sponsored by BetOnline.ag. BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the number one spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. New year and a new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON, that's LOCKEDON, to get started. From football to basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. BetOnline, where the game starts. This is Locked On QB1 on your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast, Locked On Eagles. I'm Louis DiBiase. Wrapping up the week, the Eagles take on the Dallas Cowboys tomorrow night. And not really a super important game. We'll see if Nick Sirianni decides to rest Jalen Hurts and the starters. I think Jalen Hurts has done enough. He's gotten this team into the playoffs, and losing actually would help this team better in the wild card round, open up their options when it comes to potentially playing Arizona, Los Angeles, Dallas, Tampa Bay. If they win, right now, signs are looking like they're going to have to play Tom Brady in the first round. But if you're somebody that wants a chance to play somebody else, a loss would actually help their odds anyway. It would become more 50-50 Tampa Bay versus the field, where if they win, they're pretty much going to Tampa Bay in a week. I want to wrap up Locked On QB1 today by just getting back to how impressed I've been with Jalen Hurts, in a certain way. Like, again, there's a long way to go, and I'm not sold, and I still like other prospects a little bit better than Jalen, but at the same time, it's hard to not tip your cap to this guy. I said before the season, Jalen Hurts was facing more pressure, I think, than any quarterback in the NFL. He was taking over for a franchise quarterback many thought his presence, his draft selection helped destroy. A franchise quarterback that, in 2019 dragged this team to the playoffs, that in 2017 was a huge part of why you won your first championship in NFL history. Like a quarterback that this franchise was all in on and invested a lot in. So there was pressure from that already. There's already pressure in Philadelphia, which is maybe the harshest quarterback market. Just ask Donovan McNabb. And then you had this organization that didn't pick Jalen to be the guy, and they had a short leash on him. It was an organization that tried to upgrade over him many times this offseason in the form of exploring a trade for Deshaun Watson, exploring trading up for Zach Wilson. Like, this team was in on potentially fixing Carson Wentz if Carson decided to stay. This team was exploring many avenues to not have Jalen be the guy. So all of that combined, not only that, but passing on Justin Fields, being compared to that prospect and Trey Lance and Mac Jones, there was a lot on Jalen Hurts' shoulders in his first year as the full-time starting quarterback. And then you add all of that on top of starting the year 2-5, failing to be an efficient, high-volume passer that this franchise wants. That is so much for a young player to take on. And the fact that despite all of that, he helped you win 7 of 9 games, posting a 100-plus passer rating in 4 of the final 7 games. The final 3 games, he posted a 110.4, 102.5, and 90.9 complete passer rating in the final 3 games that were the most important to make the playoffs. The fact that he did all that, considering everything I just laid out, that would add pressure onto his shoulders, how can you not be impressed with that? I'm impressed, but at the same time, I'm not really surprised, because nothing rattles Jalen Hurts. And that's the one thing I said this offseason, not the only positive, but one of the things I did say about Jalen that I love and that why I would love for him to pan out and be the guy is because of his just undeniable calm demeanor where nothing rattles him. The pressure is never too much. Like, you never have to doubt that if this guy has one drive in the NFC title or the Super Bowl to win you the game, that the moment won't be too big for him. I'm concerned about other areas of his play on the field, but that trait I'll never have to worry about with Jalen Hurts. And it's a huge plus. It's a huge trait to have if you're going to be a franchise quarterback, especially in the city of brotherly love. And I think Hurts has it. He really is made to be an Eagle. And hopefully he can keep it going. And it'll start in the playoffs next week. Guys, that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On QB1 on your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast. Locked On Eagles. Now go make your second listen, Locked On Bets, your daily one-stop shop for all gambling needs. Locked On Bets, hosted by your boy Q, with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. It's free and available on all platforms. Thanks for making Locked On Eagles your first listen each and every day. We'll see you tomorrow after the game. As always, thank you for downloading. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And let's go Birds.